back to our roundtable review. We thought we'd give you a quick update as to what we've got coming up in the future, what exciting projects we've got going on that you're going to be interested in, you're going to love, and a little bit of review of what we've been doing over the last few months. Shall we kick off with a bit of Adnams?
Yeah, well, what a amazing time that both James and I had, and we're lucky enough to go to Southwold, to Adnams Brewery, and just be completely immersed in all things Southwold and Adnams. It was fantastic, wasn't it?
It was absolutely outstanding, Rob. We were really fortunate to spend time with Fergus behind the scenes, seeing everything in their brewery, learning about the history of the brewery and brewing in Southwold. And really getting under the skin of the recipe for Ghost Ship, which I think is one of those beers that a lot of people probably take a little bit for granted and don't realise the complexity that goes into making it.
Yeah, I think actually the complexity, that's a really good word to use for that actual beer, because that the yeast,
the yeast
what the yeast adds to it is really quite special, and trying to clone it has been tricky, even when you're actually given the recipe. So we've been actually fortunate to be given the recipe by Fergus at Adnams, but what we can't replicate is their yeast, and it's impossible to manage on a homebrew scale. So so the combination of yeast there has been it's really exciting project.
We're really pleased with the recipe kit that we've put together. Now that's out in the world, so people can purchase it and have a go at brewing it. Definitely watch the first video as well that we've already launched, which is our tour of the brewery. And then we'll have the second part of that video coming out probably early to mid-January, where we're going to do a tasting session with some guests and get their thoughts on how we did brewing our version of Ghost Ship.
Actually, it's a really good one, because it's a very difficult one to crack, because obviously when we're brewing it on a homebrew scale, the hop character is much fresher to a certain extent than you'll get it if you go to the supermarket and buy a bottle. So it's a what are we trying to clone? Are we trying to clone Ghost Ship straight from the brewery, or are we trying to clone it as you would buy it off a supermarket shelf? So it's it's a really interesting beer to get going.
That leads on to some of the other stuff we've been doing as well, Martin. Do you want to give us a little bit of an update on the really awesome thing that happened here at Malt HQ a couple of weeks back?
So you're talking about tasting of beer. We had our meantime competition.
Yes, we did.
150 people entered. We had some fantastic people here to help us judge during the day. We had Will from Barham, so it was fantastic support.
Yeah, fantastic.
Came along with some new hops for us to have a sniff of and rub off as well.
Actually,
that was brilliant.
Yeah, it was
really exciting.
Really exciting.
British hop varieties, experimental ones that he brought along for us to get our noses into.
Yeah, and a massive difference between each one. I mean, there were some really different tastes or smells that were coming out of those hops, and the size of the cones as well. It was great to be able to get in there and do a bit of rub and sniff.
Yeah, but I mean, with the actual beers we had present on the day that we were drinking and tasting, so varied. Just using the English hops, Olicana as the prime, and trying to use some Chevalier malt in there. All the beers were very different. We saw some fantastic, stunning beers in there. I mean, there was a few which could do some more work and a little bit of help on kind of improving how they present them for the recipe for the competition.
Interestingly, we've done a good few of these competitions now, so we're actually getting to know what the standard is likely to be, and I think we were all in agreement that actually the standard of this one was higher than we've seen previously.
Yeah, absolutely.
The variation of style within that style was also pretty diverse. We had some New England styles. We had a black IPA version. So it was really interesting. But there are some lessons to be learned, and we need to do some more education on how to present your beer for a competition. For example, we had a few that were presented to us in clear plastic bottles. Obviously, that's not going to work very well.
It's not going to protect your beer, and it's not going to deliver the judges with much confidence about what they're actually receiving and having to taste.
From what we found on that day, the best beers were served out of glass bottles or cans.
Or cans,
yeah. I mean, the winning entry, which was George Tate, his beer was in a can. He actually presented it fantastically well. Just the label that was supposed to be on there, he actually sent 4 cans rather than the 3, just as a backup. Which meant you could actually, on the final tasting, which he did with Brad and Johnny on the live stream, you were able to enjoy the beer as well.
Yeah,
Then.
exactly.
It's a really, really nice touch that he put that extra can in. To be fair.
And it's just fantastic that we've been able to be involved yet again as the homebrew community, shaping the direction of the beer industry in this country.
Yeah.
You know, we know that there is a really strong need for us to support farms in the UK growing English hop varieties. And this was another piece in that puzzle towards helping that further along. But then, Martin, you've had an exciting week last week as well.
Yeah, so last Friday I got invited over to Lucy Brewing with Andy, and Andy had got a Jamil Zaini chef there, and he was brewing Janet's Brown with a few update twists to the recipe. Obviously, we'll have a kit launching out in a few weeks' time with that, but it's focusing on wort hopping, so that's when you're mashing, and also using. So that's then also going to use a new yeast which is called Hop Unlock from WHC, and that's all about boosting the files and the juiciness and the flavours of the hops within the beer. So we've got more about that coming out in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and for anybody that doesn't know, Jamil is obviously an absolute legend within the homebrewing community in America, but more broadly the entire world, right?
Yeah.
We were talking about this the other day on reflection after you'd spent the day there, and he co-wrote one of our kind of most important pieces of homebrew literature, right? Brewing classic styles, which is just something we always turn to whenever we're in need of inspiration on what to brew.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's really appropriate for me because when I very first started brewing and before Malt Miller was formed, you know, I was listening to Jamil, you know, on podcasts, and I was reading articles that were written by Jamil, and the book Brewing Classic Styles has actually shaped my home brewing, and particularly Janet's Brown, which is one of my all-time favourite beers to brew and incredibly tricky to get right. So I'm really looking forward to the kit and see what we can do with that.
There was a deeper level to this though, right, Martin? You know, another angle that we should really talk about with this whole project.
I mean, obviously Janet's Brown is actually Mike Tasty's recipe, who unfortunately passed away. So the recipe and the beer that Andy's going to be selling afterwards, which we'll be stocking as well, a portion of the money from the beer will be going to Macmillan, and a portion of the money from the recipe kits will also go into Macmillan. So we'll be raising money for a good cause as well.
Yeah.
That's great. That's really nice thing to do. Yeah.
Nice story, definitely.
Last time we were sat around this table, we had a really big discussion about some updates we were planning around the changes to delivery methods for our customers. Now, it's been a while since that last video. There's obviously been some changes. Rob, give us a little bit of an overview of where we're at.
Yeah, so basically the ethos here is that the customer should have a choice of how the goods are being delivered to them. And to facilitate that, we have introduced various different methods that can be chosen at checkout, and they are chosen through speed of delivery or the amount the customer wants to pay for various different services. And it's been massively successful. We've really been able to see from our customer base and how they're ordering. Not everyone needs their order tomorrow, you know, and we've always, or what at the heart of Malt Miller has always been get the ingredients to people as quickly as possible. And we don't just do ingredients here that are time sensitive. You know, we do other items that it doesn't matter if they take 2, 3, 4, 5 days to arrive. So to be able to offer the customer a more budget friendly delivery service, if there aren't any time constraints on that, then what a great thing to be able to do. And actually, yeah, it's been really successful. When we first did it, there was a big conversation about us having Every as a option for people to to take their delivery with. Actually, it's been really successful, and we now have been doing it for long enough, and we've had many thousands of parcels going through just Every for us to be able to give some actual really good feedback on just how well they're doing in comparison to the other couriers. And it's worth noting at this point that the pressure on couriers and delivery services in general during what the couriers call peak, or what normal people call like Black Friday, and the run up from Black Friday to Christmas, the pressure on them is absolutely vast. So if there's going to be cracks in the system, this is when we really see it. We've actually got some figures to back up where we are. So out of those thousands that we've sent with every during November, on their 2-day service, they're at a 97.6% success rate. When we look at, in comparison to DPD, who we've sent slightly less parcels with, so it's not such a great selection, but it's way enough that we get a really good an idea of what they're doing. They're also at 97, or they're just under 98 actually percent. DHL parcel at 93. On a time scale when, like we say, the cracks are going to really show in any courier network, we're offering 3 or 4 or 5 different ways to give those to send our goods to customers. They're comparing favourably with anyone else at a budget price, so we're really pleased with those results actually. And there's bits and pieces that we can do to help smooth the way with getting deliveries to customers, and that is at the heart of Malt Miller. That is what we always do. But actually this is working brilliantly.
The other thing that this also does that is, I think a lot of customers have said they really like, is that the service varies regionally.
Yeah, it does.
I know my every driver who comes around, he knows where my house is. Some people do have the same experience with every. Your DPD driver or your DHL driver, so you can choose which service gets to you the best way.
Okay, so that's a bit of a look back on where we've been over the last couple of months since the last video that we launched. There's some stuff that people will start to be seeing right now, or have already seen, or maybe are talking about, that we just wanted to have a quick dive into before we jump into the exciting stuff of what does 2023 have in store for Team Malt Miller and our customers. Joe, do you want to kick us off here? Because there's a really, really great topic to go into.
Absolutely, there is. Bathhouse hops is the big one. We are now beginning to roll out the Bathhouse hop packaging that we have designed and agreed with Bathhouse, that has got pure hop pellets, Lupamax, and Incognito and Spectrum in liquid form. We're also actually in the moment just looking into being able to do Lupamax in a 50-gram bag as well. Which we think might work really well for the product. Obviously it is more of an expensive product to purchase, but actually the return you get on it means that you can use a smaller quantity within your brew. So the Bathhouse packaging is out now. It's in the system. You'll begin to see more and more of it as you order your hops. So it's sort of phasing through some of our Malt Miller hop bags, but that's great. It's really exciting to be able to get those out into the system.
Absolutely delighted with the packaging. Love the packaging, and the fact that it's pillow packed, just so much better for the actual products. We're delighted with it.
We got some new bits of kit that we've purchased that we've been playing with as well, which is great for the new style packaging, and how we print them, how we fill the bags, how we seal the bags. But it's making our working process here at Malt Miller HQ really efficient, and it's just giving the product that little bit more special care.
So we now gas analyze the packaging, it's to make sure that what we're doing is working absolutely as it should do. So we can actually test the headspace that's left in the packaging of the hops to make sure that we are getting rid of as much oxygen as possible. And we aim for, the industry standard is to aim for less than 2, but we're getting less than 0.1 is really what we're after, and we're regularly achieving that. So absolutely delighted.
Yeah. We test every batch we do. We're testing a number of bags throughout the batch, make sure that the machine is doing what we set it to do. There's no failure anywhere, and we're looking after that product and giving you the best possible results that you can get for your brew.
So that's an evolution of hops, segueing nicely into some other evolutions that are happening here. Obviously, we've been offering experience days for our customers for a while. Joe, do you want to tell us a bit about what's happening there?
We've been doing brew days now here on G30s for
5 years.
Probably 5 years, 6 years.
5 years.
So we've got a setup of 4 machines. You can come along. You can bring your friends along. You can just come along as your own individual person and meet up with fellow brewers, and you can test the equipment. You can learn to brew. You can have your experience and your knowledge of the equipment refined. So we've now upgraded that to G40 brew days as well. So there will be 2 options. You can either choose to brew on the G30 or you can choose to brew on the G40. Gives you that amazing opportunity to actually test the machinery out before you want to buy it yourself, which is fantastic. It will still be the same 40 pint batch that you would do on the G30, which I think is quite important for people to understand the logistics of taking more liquid away with you. It makes it sensible just to keep it out that 40 pint batch. But we've got a new beer that we're going to be brewing on that, which gives you that variety. So it's their individual brew days. So it's either a G30 or a G40 that you can book onto. They're fantastic. I mean, the feedback we have from these days
Yeah, they're
has
really
always
good, aren't
been
they?
amazing. Martin, you ran them for years when we first started, didn't you?
Yeah, that's when I started. Was actually when we started doing the brew days. Yeah. So, but the G40 is a great thing to have.
That's brilliant.
As a G40 user myself now at home, and also primarily it's the thing I seem to use more here.
Here, yeah.
I think it's great for customers to be able to get their hands on it and have a go with it before they decide to take that step up.
Yeah.
And the recipe we're using for the G40 brew days is your proper Cornish.
Yeah, they're one that I kind of like to brew after I've had my few weeks in the summer down in Cornwall.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's fantastic pints.
yeah, everybody seems to like it. It seems one of our most popular kits. So we thought we'd step it up and add something in there a bit more hoppy for the G40 brew days.
Brilliant.
Another important thing at this point to probably talk about is some of the things that are going on in the wider kind of beer and ingredient industry that we're seeing. Martin, do you want to maybe talk us through some of this and where we're seeing things at the moment?
So yeah, there's a number of things that normally happen towards the end of the year. We see new price lists coming out from suppliers. We've had that consistently year after year. This year, though, it's been a little bit more than normal. There's a lot of things out there which are impacting on pricing, as we all know. Be that the availability of products, the shipping of products, the energy to produce products, the energy to transport product. There's so many different factors in there. So I mean, it's something that we've all got to kind of be aware of, that prices are going up for us and for our manufacturers and our suppliers.
I think it was really telling that normally we get letters from specifically our malt suppliers. January is always historically the time when the malt prices go up, but we tend to get the letters telling us what the malt prices are going to be really quite late into December. In fact, it has been known to actually get those in January rather than this year. There was none of that. In fact, we started getting letters about malt suppliers up in their January prices.
September.
Yeah, back
probably
in September. So it's been a different different approach from the maltsters this time.
Well, I think what's important is, and Martin, you've already alluded to a lot of this, but it's a global industry. It's not just a industry that's located within our country. We're part of a global market when we talk about many of these ingredients, specifically hops and any kind of grain or malt that we're using and we're supplying. And there are so many moving parts around the world right now with that, that obviously the maltsters are really aware of, and the other suppliers are really aware of.
I mean, the cost of those raw ingredients to the maltsters, I mean, it's quite easy to forget that malt is connected to everything else in the food chain, as in animal feed price, then the food grain price, and then you have the malting price because it's the highest quality.
Yeah.
So they all track, because a farmer will say, well, actually, he's going to pay me this much for a grain at a lower grade. So it all has to track, and it all impacts, and be that because one country is buying more than another country and demand is up from them, or another country is not producing enough. The harvest wasn't so good in one country and it was good in this country. It all has massive knock-on effects. And then it's the energy to actually produce malt from barley.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, the things we've seen the biggest increases on are the roasted malts, because they take more energy.
Yeah.
And then it's not just malt, you've also got hops. Hops also take energy to dry hops. And we had all these conversations with the hop farms when we were out there in September. They were warning that this is going to impact on those as well.
Yeah, it isn't just our small corner of the beer
No.
industry. You know, this is affecting the entire industry that
definitely.
uses these ingredients.
It's also yeast. I mean, you think about it, dry yeast. Everyone thinks dry yeast is a cheap product. It's not going to be, because it takes energy to dry the yeast. So all of the components that make the beer that you buy in the supermarket, you buy in the shop, you brew at home, are going up. So you are going to eventually see that price increase on the bar as well.
The positive is that we have our 2023 malt prices now, and barring massive increases in the cost of transport and factors that are completely out of our control, that is pretty much fixed for the year. So yeah, there's been an increase, but at least we know what that increase is, and it should be pretty stable for 2023. So at least we know what our prices are now.
Yeah, because most of them will forward buy their energy, so the energy price
Yeah.
stays fixed for them, and so the product price stays the same all the way through the year.
And the other thing we're always doing is we're always reviewing costs that we buy goods in for, and
Every
at all
single product,
possible,
every time,
Yeah.
Every
So
single order.
wherever possible, we will look if there are reductions in prices to pass those on as soon as we can to our customers.
absolutely.
Yeah, it doesn't just go up; it comes down as the
Yeah,
prices come down.
if and when we can.
Yeah.
But just by way of an example, just to let the audience know what sort of thing that we've had. So our sack boxes, for example, and I think this is really important because it is very telling for our customers. So sack boxes, when we first introduced them, were £1.86. They're now £3.09. So
That's huge.
that's the
And
kind
that's
of
only a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest jump has been this year
Yeah, it
in
has.
the material cost for that.
yeah. Anyway, we do what we can when we can, and
And one thing we will not compromise on is quality for our customers.
absolutely
Definitely.
no,
Definitely.
no.
Something that people will have seen, but also some will have noticed right now, is that a really well received product is now out of stock. Rob, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Can Seamer was slightly more popular than I had anticipated.
Yeah.
So yeah, we sold out of those relatively quickly, but we are absolutely delighted with the machine.
Yeah.
We've got more on the way and some updated models as well. So it's really, really good. You know, our aim was to do as much as we possibly can to enable homebrewers to package their beer in cans for as reasonable cost as we possibly can. And at the moment, we're at that price level where we really have we've done that. So I'm absolutely delighted.
And the machine is fantastic.
So easy to use.
Brilliant.
So easy to use, and the fact that there's no setup, you know, it works out the box. And you know, we don't expect customers to have to spend a lot of time setting up what is actually quite a tricky thing to get right first go. So they don't have to do that to get the machine out the box, and within 10 minutes you're seaming beer cans. Fantastic.
So if you have been thinking about getting one of these and you've seen that it's out of stock, don't worry. There is going to be
back
more
in
on their
stock.
way.
They're on the way.
Join the wait list on the website so that as soon as we get it back in stock, you get notified, and then you can
Get it ordered.
get yourself canning at home.
So looking ahead into the first quarter of 2023, and something that's really close to your heart is the International Women's Day Brew. We did this last year with Elusive.
And Siren.
And Siren.
Yeah.
Joe, what are we doing this year?
Okay, so we are working with Elusive again this next year, I should say. It's not this year, it's next year. But we're also we've got Kelly from Good Chemistry Brewing on board as well. So the three main sort of key organisations for the event will be Elusive, Good Chemistry and Malt Miller. We've also got some other people that are going to be coming along that we're just finalising at the moment, so I'm not going to give names and organisations, but again, really, really key within the brewing industry. It's not just about the brewery, it's about women within the brewing industry, and doesn't matter whether you brew, whether you are a producer of, you sell, you're a facilitator. It's all about getting women more interested, engrossed and actively doing brewing which is what the plan is. Obviously, International Women's Day is the 8th of March. We are going to change things up a little bit this year. So what we're going to do is we're going to launch a recipe at the beginning of January that you can buy from us. You can then start brewing that whenever you're ready. We're going to do a physical brew with Elusive the beginning of February, so that once we get to International Women's Day, we've got the beer ready.
Yeah, so it can
and we're
actually
drinking.
perfect.
And then we're going to, what we want to do is we want to get loads of people brewing the same brew. You can tweak it if you want to. If you want a bit of dry hopping, you can. If you want to add some coffee in, you want to change it slightly, it's going to be a really fantastic base recipe that is going to be amazing on its own, but also you can personalize to how you like your beer. Then we're going to have a launch event just after International Women's Day where we want everyone to bring their beer along to, a couple of bottles, cans of your beer that you've brewed that has got your slant on it, that we can just do a massive tasting session, try everyone's different angles, and just talk about beer and brewing and the experiences we've all had from doing the brew. So I'm really excited about it, and watch the space. Beginning of January, we'll give you more information.
Sounds like an absolutely fantastic project that we're really, really proud to be part of. It's really cool.
No, it's exciting, very exciting.
I think the theme that you kind of alluded to there about encouraging more and more people into the beer industry, homebrewers taking that leap, people stepping into homebrewing, I think that's just a fantastic way to approach it this year. It sounds really cool.
On the Brew With Us theme, James, what have you got coming up?
Well, I think first and foremost, we've had an awesome year for our kind of Brew With Us project that we've been working on. Worked with some amazing breweries, and what underneath it, the theme has been really that we wanted to impart as much knowledge as possible to people. And there's always been something within each of the projects that we've done. And I think that's really where we want to take this project for 2023. We've got a couple of breweries that we're in talks with to work with. Again, don't want to give any kind of names away, but we're looking at something for the spring that will involve an angle we've not looked at all, which is foraging. We obviously did our celebration ale green hop video at Hop Harvest.
Which is foraging, but this is
foraging.
Berries.
Looking for other ingredients and how we might be able to use them in home brewing. And then Martin's been looking at something as well to try and get us lined up.
Yeah, I've got a few ideas of breweries that I'd like to work with in terms of getting myself off that lager project, which seems to have taken over the whole year.
Move on.
Do you need some hops?
I'm going to get on something a little bit hoppy, and I've got something that's probably a bit big and malty I want to work on as well.
Nice.
Wonderful. Yeah. The focus for us here at the Malt Miller has always been to try and get people excited about recipes and using different ingredients and learning new skills. So that's the theme for us for 2023. So you might actually see some stuff that maybe us working with new ingredients or trying some new things to encourage people to brew along with us, right?
Yeah, we need new recipes and new experiences for customers, different ingredients for customers to play with. It's really exciting time ahead. Yeah, for that, it's going to be awesome.
And the focus on recipes, Rob, that you said there, that's definitely a theme for us for certainly the first few months of the year. You should, as a customer, be seeing lots of new recipes making their way onto our website. We're really taking some time at the moment to do some recipe development, brew with new ingredients. All of us try new experimental brews, and we're really excited about getting as many of them out to our customers as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have been brewing here at the Malt Miller for a long time, and we've got a massive back catalogue of our own personal favourite recipes, and actually some of those aren't on the website, and we're thinking this is crazy. We need to be doing more to push those out to customers, so that people are brewing as varied amount of beers as possible, because it keeps the interest alive. Just being immersed in the amount of ingredients we've got here is such a huge inspiration to be able to put those ingredients together and try new recipes.
I've got exactly the same thing. When I say this malty thing I want to work on, it's driven by a malt in that room that I know I love and I want to use more. But then also, we are also paying attention to what customers are asking us to do. That's where the ghost ship idea came from. That week where we had 6 people email and say, "Have you got the recipe for ghost ship?"
Yeah.
So there's lots of ways we can come up and create some of these great recipes.
Now, speaking of education, which we obviously have a huge amount of responsibility towards within our homebrewing community, there's a project that you're incredibly keen for us to get involved with in the first few months of 2023, Rob. Do you want to just kind of take us on a bit of journey with that?
Yeah, we're doing Project Yeast, and it's really, really important. Actually, it's come about for a few different reasons, but the main one was both Budvar, working with Budvar, and how important the yeast, not only the yeast strain, but treating the yeast correctly. But then that was massively backed up when we went to Adnams. You know, the fact that they are brewing a beer such as Ghost Ship, and when that goes into cask, it goes into cask on day 7. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens by pitching brilliantly healthy yeast and the correct amount of brilliantly healthy yeast. And I think, and from some of the competitions that we've done, I think that where some education is lacking in using the correct amount of really good quality yeast, and I'm not talking about wet yeast here particularly, I'm talking about the dry yeast and pitching rates of dry yeast, and this is really interesting. So we've released the Ghost Ship recipe kit, and we've already had people say, well, why does it come with 2 sachets of SO4? Well, actually, interestingly, the pitching rate for SO4 is 0.8 of a gram per litre. So 1 packet into a 23 litre batch simply isn't enough. We need 18 grams. So everyone thinks that 1 sachet of yeast is automatically enough for 23 litres, and it isn't. And we have a lot of people emailing us with problems over fermentation, and I think that a lot of these problems are coming from basically underpitching yeast. And it's not just in all grain recipe kits, it's in homebrew extract kits as well. So we've just done some looking this morning. Some of the kits, some of the Muntons kits are coming with just 6 grams of yeast in. Now, I've got it on pretty good authority that the yeast that they're using within those kits is the Brew Nottingham, and the pitching rate on that is between 0.5 and 1 gram per litre. So we do see a problem with those kits of them not fermenting out correctly, and I think that, you know, the yeast is going to be part of it. So it just brings us to a massive bit of education that we're going to do alongside a few other parties for the first quarter of 2023, and I absolutely can't wait. It's going to be fantastic.
We know, don't we, that a beer that is fermented well tastes superior.
Well, it's everything about that beer, you know, is the fermentation profile. So we're going to be going to yeast labs, and we're going to be going to yeast experts, and we're going to have a whole raft of work educating homebrewers and how to use particularly dry yeast to absolutely to its best.
Yeah.
I mean, what's really cool about this is it's actually derived from Brew with Us, so we're actually learning from Brew with Us as well.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And it's driving what we're going to do forward.
Yeah. So I think we're all agreed it's been an absolutely amazing year. Just a massive thanks to all of the staff here at Malt HQ who've worked faultlessly for the last year. So thank you very much for that. And again, a massive thanks to our customers and for all those YouTube views, Facebook likes, and all of the rest of the follows on social media. It's been absolutely fantastic. So much more to come in 2023. But for now, enjoy your Christmas, enjoy your new year. Have a great brew.